In the year 80 AD, Rome opened the largest arena the world had ever seen. For the people entering its gates that morning, the Colosseum was not an ancient ruin. It was brand new, bright with fresh stone, covered in colored awnings, filled with the smell of dust, animals, sweat, incense, cooked food, and thousands of voices rising together beneath the Roman sun. The city had seen amphitheaters before. It had seen gladiators, executions, animal hunts, and public spectacles. But nothing like this. Nothing on this scale. Nothing built so deliberately to make an entire empire feel the power of Rome in a single place. The Colosseum was not just a building. It was a machine, a monument, a theater of death, a political weapon. And on its opening day, Rome came to watch it come alive. To understand what it was like inside, you have to imagine Rome before sunrise. Streets already filling with people moving toward the new amphitheater, some walking from crowded apartment blocks, some arriving from wealthy houses, some coming from taverns, workshops, markets, and military barracks, all pulled toward the same enormous structure rising near the heart of the city. The arena stood where Nero's private lake had once reflected the walls of his golden house, a symbol of an emperor who had taken too much for himself. But now, under the Flavian dynasty, that private luxury had been replaced by a public monument, a gift to the Roman people. At least, that was the message Rome wanted everyone to believe. Its real name was the Flavian Amphitheater, but we remember it as the Colosseum. And in 80 AD, under the Emperor Titus, it was finally ready to receive the crowd. From the outside, the building must have seemed almost impossible. 4 stories of arches rising in a massive oval, white travertine stone glowing in the morning light, statues filling the upper arcades, stairways and entrances arranged with a precision that allowed tens of thousands of people to pour inside without turning the streets into chaos. Roman crowds knew where to go because the building itself was designed to control them. Each entrance led to a specific path. Each corridor pushed people upward or downward. Each stairway separated classes, ranks, and privileges, until every spectator found their place in a city of stone built around a killing floor. At the bottom, closest to the arena, sat the most powerful men in Rome. Senators in white togas, magistrates, priests, officials, and guests whose position in the building reflected their position in the world. Above them sat the equestrians, wealthy citizens, officers, merchants, and men whose families had money, status, and ambition. Higher still came the ordinary male citizens of Rome, packed into rows where the view was farther away, but the energy was louder. And at the top, beneath the open sky, women, the poor, foreigners, and enslaved people looked down from the highest seats, far from the emperor, but still inside the spectacle. The Colosseum was a map of Roman society, carved in stone, where you sat told everyone who you were. And at the center of it all was the arena, a wide oval floor covered in sand, clean at the beginning of the day, but designed to absorb blood, hide stains, and be raked smooth again before the next act. The Latin word for sand was arena, and that is where the name comes from, not from glory, not from architecture, but from the material spread across the floor to manage what happened there. Before the games began, the building itself was already alive. Vendors moved through the crowd, selling food, water, wine, and small comforts for a long day under the sun. Gamblers whispered about fighters they had seen before. Friends saved places for each other. Children stared down into the empty floor. And above them, sailors from the imperial fleet worked the great awning system that could shade parts of the audience when the heat became unbearable. This awning was called the velarium, a massive system of fabric, ropes, poles, and trained hands, operated with the discipline of a ship at sea, because Rome had turned even shade into engineering. Below the arena, another world waited. In the earliest years of the Colosseum, the underground system was still developing. But beneath and around the arena were service spaces, holding areas, cages, corridors, ramps, lifts, and passages, where the performers, prisoners, workers, animals, and attendants prepared for what the crowd above would see only as sudden appearances. To the spectators, a lion might seem to emerge from nowhere. A door might open in the sand, a stage setting might rise into view. A condemned prisoner might be pushed forward. But behind each moment was labor, planning, fear, and machinery. The Colosseum was not only brutal, it was organized. Every spectacle had a rhythm. The morning often belonged to the hunts, the venationes, when animals from across the empire were brought into the arena. Bears, boars, leopards, bulls, ostriches, and sometimes lions or elephants. Creatures that many spectators had never seen before and may never see again. For Rome, these animals were more than entertainment. They were proof of conquest. A beast from North Africa, a leopard from the east, a bear from the forests, an elephant from distant lands. Each one told the crowd that Rome's reach extended beyond Italy, beyond the Mediterranean, into places most citizens could only imagine. The arena became a living map of empire. Hunters entered with spears, nets, shields, and trained movements, sometimes fighting animals directly, sometimes staging scenes meant to look like myths, forests, deserts, or wild landscapes recreated on the sand for a crowd that wanted danger without leaving the city. From the seats, people cheered, gasped, laughed, shouted advice, demanded courage, mocked hesitation, and treated the arena as if it belonged to them. In a way, it did. Public games were not private entertainment. They were a relationship between ruler and people. A ritual of power where the emperor gave spectacle and the crowd gave approval, noise, loyalty, and memory. At midday, the mood changed. This was often when executions took place, when criminals, prisoners of war, rebels, or enslaved people condemned by the state were brought into the arena to die in front of the public. For modern eyes, this is the hardest part to understand. But for Rome, punishment was not hidden away. It was made visible, and the Colosseum turned the power of the law into a performance that everyone could see. Some executions were simple, others were staged as scenes from myth, with the condemned forced into roles where the story ended exactly as the audience expected. Not because it was theater, but because Rome believed punishment could be both justice and spectacle. By afternoon, the crowd waited for what many had come to see most, the gladiators. Contrary to the simplest image, gladiators were not always men thrown randomly into the arena to die. Many were trained professionals, some enslaved, some condemned, some volunteers seeking prize money or fame. And some became famous enough that their names were scratched onto walls and remembered by fans. They trained in schools, learned specific weapons, fought in recognizable styles, and entered the arena not as a chaotic mob, but as performers of controlled violence. A murmillo might carry a large shield and a helmet with a fish-like crest. A retiarius might fight with net and trident, lightly armored and quick. A secutor might be equipped to chase him, heavy, protected, and dangerous. The crowd understood these pairings. They knew the styles. They had favorites. They judged courage, skill, endurance, and composure. And in a world where death could arrive through disease, fire, war, childbirth, slavery, or accident, the gladiator represented something both terrifying and magnetic. A person trained to face death in public without losing control. When gladiators entered, the arena changed again. The noise became sharper. People leaned forward. The emperor watched. Officials observed the rules. Attendants stood ready. The fight was real, but it was also structured, watched carefully by referees, musicians, trainers, and men who knew that a good fight was not only about killing, it was about drama, balance, and the moment when the crowd believed they had seen courage tested to its limit. Not every fight ended in death. A defeated gladiator might ask for mercy, the crowd might signal its desire, and the final decision could rest with the sponsor of the games, often the emperor himself, who had to read the mood of the people while displaying his own power over life and death. That was the true force of the Colosseum. It made power visible. The emperor sat in a place where everyone could see him, and everyone could see that he saw them. The building connected ruler and crowd through spectacle, emotion, fear, and approval. For Titus, opening the Colosseum was especially important. Only a year earlier, in 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius had buried Pompeii and Herculaneum, and not long before that, Rome had suffered fire, plague, political uncertainty, and the memory of Nero's excesses. The new amphitheater was a message. Rome had survived. Rome could rebuild. Rome could turn the space of a hated emperor into a gift for the people. Rome could gather tens of thousands of citizens into one place and make them feel for a day that the empire was strong, ordered, generous, and eternal. But behind that message was another truth. The Colosseum depended on suffering, on enslaved labor, on captured animals, on prisoners, on men trained to wound and be wounded, and on an audience that had learned to see violence as part of public life. To walk through the Colosseum in 80 AD would have been overwhelming, beautiful, terrifying, noisy, and deeply Roman. You would have seen sunlight flashing on helmets, dust rising from the sand, animals pacing in cages, officials moving through corridors, senators speaking quietly in the best seats, poor citizens shouting from the upper tiers, vendors pushing through narrow passages, and the emperor seated above the arena like the center of the world. You would have felt the building shake with noise. You would have smelled sweat, stone, blood, animals, wine, smoke, and hot dust. You would have understood, even if no one said it aloud, that this place was designed to make Rome feel larger than life. As the day moved toward evening, the sand would be raked again, bodies removed, animals dragged away, weapons collected, gates closed, and the crowd would begin to pour back through the corridors into the city. Some would leave excited, arguing about the best fight. Some would remember the animals. Some would praise the emperor. Some would return the next day, because the opening games of the Colosseum were not a single afternoon, but a festival that ancient sources describe as lasting for many days, perhaps even 100. By sunset, the arena floor would be quiet again. The great arches would darken, the seats would empty. But the Colosseum had done what it was built to do. It had taken the empire's wealth, violence, engineering, hierarchy, and ambition, and compressed them into one unforgettable experience. Today we see the Colosseum as a ruin, broken, weathered, and stripped of much of its stone. But in 80 AD, it was new. It was crowded. It was controlled chaos. It was Rome speaking in architecture, blood, sand, and applause. And for anyone who entered it on opening day, the message was impossible to miss. The empire was watching. The emperor was watching. And inside the Colosseum, Rome had built a world where life, death, entertainment, and power all met beneath the same open sky.